Hello, and welcome to Coffee Breakdowns. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Raphael Gadot. I'm the FX lead at the UTS Animal Logic Academy in Sydney, Australia, and I will present some of the FX work that was done by our students for the short film Coffee Break. So, who am I? My name is Raphael Gadot. I've worked in the film industry for over 13 years now, in a bunch of studios in Australia, but also in London and Singapore. I'm an FX artist by trade, but I like to think that I'm a bit more of a generalist when it comes to Houdini. I was previously FX supervisor at ILM in Sydney before joining the academy, and I switched to mentorship and training last year in 2023. So the program for this talk, I will give a very brief intro to the Animal Logic Academy and what we do here. I'll play Coffee Break, or short film, just about 2 minutes long. Action-packed, and then I will break down how our students created stylized smoke effects and content fluid for the film. Let's get started. So, UTS Animal Logic Academy, as the name suggests, it's a collaboration between the University of Technology Sydney and Animal Logic here in Sydney, Australia. We're also very proud to be a Houdini certified school. We run a course called the Master of Animation and Visualization. We call it the MAV. The MAV was developed in response to local studios' concerns about undergrad graduates who weren't fully prepared for the industry's demands. Studio found that it often took about a year for new hires to adapt to the production processes, creative expectations, technical skills, and soft skills. While they preferred to hire juniors with some industry experience, they were hesitant to provide that initial training. So this program was designed to bridge that gap and offer a simulated studio environment where students can gain the real-world experience needed to meet the industry standard from day one on the job. The MAV is an accelerated master, it's only 1 year. The main goal is to turn generalist students to specialist professionals to fit the industry's needs. This is a picture of our training team. All trainers all come from the industry. At the moment, there are 3 of us for about 40 students. Alex White is our creative lead, previously Anim Soup at various studios, notably Animal Logic. He's also now a screenwriter and consultant in various aspects of the film industry. Ross Anderson, our 3D lead, has worked in many places around Sydney, including ILM, Animal Logic, Plastic Wax, and more, in artist position and also as a lead and soup. And myself, leading effect. I've already talked about myself. We work more like a studio than a school. We don't have lectures. Students are here 4 days a week, and they learn by doing. They learn on the job. It's the same processes as in a professional studio. We got rounds, we got dailies, we got bids and deadlines. We use short grid, we have a render farm, we have a fuel USD pipeline, and so on. Just like in a professional studio, we work with departments. When a candidate applies to the academy, they apply for specific departments and they're required to provide a portfolio that matches their choice of specialty. And so we're trained for all the departments that you would expect in a professional animation studio. So as I said before, the course is 1 year long. We have 3 terms. We call them studios. And I'm going to talk about last year's Studio 2 project, so the TEM 2 project, which is our emerging visualization tech project. Every year the tech is different and is chosen based on recommendation from Sydney studios. Previously it's been a VR project. 2 years ago it was a project in Unreal Engine. Last year we did Coffee Break. And this year, it was a VFX project, so live action plates with CG elements rendered with Karma in Solaris. Coffee Break was born from the request of a few supervisors in town wanting to see a Spider-Verse type short film coming out of the academy, and also to have our students familiarize themselves with Blender and Grease Pencil because the studio started to adopt it as a pre-production tool in their workflows. So students were asked to create a short film with 2 characters, 1 environment, and the keyword action. So what you're about to see was done in just under 10 weeks by 40 students, and we're pretty pleased with the results. So enjoy. So I hope you enjoyed the film. In this picture, you have all the departments represented. So it's art, layout, animation, FX, lighting, comp, our program TDs, and our production coordinators. The film has been selected for a bunch of film festivals and already won a couple of awards. So we're very proud of the final result and the hard work of our students. Having said that, enough bragging, let's move on to the FX. First of all, let me introduce you to our 2023 FX team. We've got Hallam Roberts, Leon Brockhorst, and Sean Tan. The three of them generated all the 3D effects for Coffee Break. For all of them, it was their very first experience working in a traditional 3D animation pipeline. So going through rounds and dailies, addressing feedback, and collaborating with other departments. So this is a quick overview of our main ideas for the show's FX work. The first thing is we're going to Stylized FX. So things Mutant Mayhem, Spider-Verse, Puss in Boots, that kind of thing. We want nothing looking too photoreal. The FX work will be split between our 2D team and the Houdini team. Where the split was, that wasn't clear from the start. The 2D team outnumbered the Houdini team almost 3-1. And so the FX work was often a race to see who gets the best ID first. And we also made the deliberate choice to keep the 3D effects in Houdini that will be exported to Blender to be rendered in Eevee. The main reason for that was to get the FX students training focused on Houdini and to teach them how to transfer data between multiple DCCs. So our three students developed a variety of FX, went from vellum seams, classic fracturing seams, stylized power simulations, liquid simulations, and also a bunch of smaller tasks to provide support to other departments, such as modeling Carol's hair, a few anim tests with KineFX, and also enhancing motion blur with procedural motion smears. For this presentation, I will focus on our pyro and flip simulations. Starlight Smoke. As I mentioned before, we're going for an anime cartoon look. So we want to emulate hand-drawn 2D effects, not just meshing a smoke seam and leaving it at that. We need to stay within the visual language of 2D animation. Like everyone grew up with cartoons and expects certain shapes and movements when it comes to 2D smoke. I'm always putting the emphasis on simplifying setups as much as possible. We had a lot of shots and a very small team, so we had no room for over-engineering. The dev work always starts with collating all the relevant references we can find. We ended up looking at a lot of anime and also video games like Breath of the Wild or Wind Waker for simplicity and efficiency of shapes. Here are some examples of earlier research tests that our students came up with. At the start, they were all mostly procedural in nature, like this one, a bit of procedural animation, and then Sean converged with those two tests. So this one, which is instance spheres on a particle seam, and that one, which is more like a parented mesh with speed and pressure lines to set velocity. So we decided that we were going to combine those two aspects. So the pyroclastic feel of this test up here and with the high velocity that we were getting from this test here. Like on a lot of projects, often in FX, we start developing rigs with very limited asset inventory, no anim published yet, and when anim is finally published, things don't quite work out of the bat and there's a lot of adjustments that need to be done. So we were in a position where the 2D department was churning out tests faster than the Houdini team. That's understandable. And they already had claimed ownership of a few effects that I would have liked to be done in Houdini if we had a bigger team. So as soon as the temp anim for this shot of Gary was available, I ran a quick pass of a setup that Sean and I had been working on for the fire extinguisher, and with the aim to show it to Alex, our creative lead, and lock the look. So what are we looking at? So it's a mesh representing a dust puff. It's rendered in cell shading with an erosion mask applied at render time to mimic hand-drawn dissipation. First step is to create the source of our smoke simulation. So I'm using a very simple particle sim for that. Play it again. The next step is the smoke sim itself. So what I found work best is to have a low to mid res sim. You want large to medium blobs. 2D smoke is more about the larger shapes and overall movements rather than intricate details. Then I advect buckets of particles through the pyrosim's velocity field. The goal of that is to transport two attributes, edge and rest, and we'll use them later to create the erosion mask. And then the last step is meshing the pyrosim. So in this case is very simple, turning into an SDF, running a little smoothing operation on it, and then converting it to a mesh. The edge and rest attribute have been transferred to the mesh. And so the colors that we see are those attributes that we've passed as RGB values for the next DCC. In the green channel, we've stored the edge attribute. So the brighter the green, the older this part of the mesh is. In the red channel is a noise mask that was generated from the rest attribute transported by the advected particles. And so we combine these two attributes to generate the erosion mask in Blender. The blue part of the mesh are fully opaque, while the parts turning red will be fully transparent in the shader. Playing it again. Let's talk about the shader now. Okay, so since the vibe of the shot is cartoony anime, we'll be going for a cel shaded look. What we found in our early shading and lighting test is that where we place the lights and the intensities had a drastic impact on the look of our cartoon smoke. So because it could be weeks between when our effects were published and when the lighting department will pick them up, we wanted to avoid the smoke to look completely different than what had been reviewed in FX dailies. So we opted for a baked lighting approach. And for simplicity, we also made the choice to ignore occlusion and self-shadowing, which meant our solution diverged from a traditional cel shader. So the shader, our short film takes place in an office, so everything is pretty much top lit. We do the standard cel shading thing of using a dot product of the light direction with our surface normal. In this case, so I remap it from -1 and 1 to 0 and 1, and then we apply this grayscale color ramp. So that gives us this result. It's 70% there, but we're missing key information about the shape. The curvature of the shape has disappeared, and we've lost too much complexity. So we need to find ways to reintroduce details. Enter facing ratio. So the facing ratio is the dot product of the vector coming from the camera to the shaded surface by its shaded normal. So if you apply to the test geometry, it gives us this result called B, where the parts of the object facing perpendicularly to the camera become black and the parts facing the camera are white. We'll use this information to bring back details into your shader. So first we compute the average signal coming from the top lit dot product A and the facing ratio B. From this, we create a black and white feature mask using a threshold value, and we then multiplied that mask by the top lit dot product and take this result and take it through our cel shading ramp to get the result. If we compare our previous top lit dot product with the new result using the facing ratio, we can observe that we have now brought in much more details into the render, while keeping everything quite simple in terms of visual language. So the curvature of the shape is readable again, and in a way it fakes a little the sense of self-occlusion, and the shape still looks like it's top lit. So this is applying the shader we just developed to the mesh we generated earlier. We're getting those round pyroclastic shapes that we expect from hand-drawn effects. If I scrub through you can notice the mesh being eroded away as opposed to blobs of mesh disappearing by decreasing volume, as you would usually get with meshing pyroseams. On this frame, you can notice the effect of the facing ratio mask in the shader that allows us to make out the shape of the side-by-side blobs. It's a simple way to make the shapes more noticeable without adding too much extra info to the frame. So I had this clip looping on my screen when Alex or creatively passed by and he stopped in his tracks and say, oh, can we use this for the film? So that's when I knew we'd found our look and our workflow for the stylized smoke on this short film. I'm going to show again this clip of the final extinguisher. So it's that technique that I've just went through, implemented by Sean on the majority of the shots. I find it very successful, and I think it integrates quite well with the 2D elements from the art department. Next, content feeds. So we had two types of content feeds on coffee break. One is the water sloshing at the back of Carol's chair, which is actually present in almost all of Carol's shots, and it's most obvious in the very final shot of the short film. This was done by Leon. And the other is this hero shot of Gary pouring coffee all over himself. That was done by Hallam. Or was it done? It's based on this almost 14-year-old presentation by Andrew Lyons. It's actually one of the first effects that I had to replicate on my own when I was a junior effects artist at Animalogic. And I found it fitting that I got to teach that now. Andrew's setup was using chops and procedural noises. We're not using chops and no procedural noises for this, but it's the same principles just applied to flip. I've seen different artists coming up with similar variations of the setup over the years. So why this approach? Flip seems kind of a very hard time with fast-moving containers because particles leak out, resolution might be too low, the time steps might be too big to keep up. That can lead in the fluid acting weird, like not staying inside the container or not moving with it properly. So like increasing the resolution or the number of substeps, it really doesn't improve the result and you get very little bang for your buck. That's where this approach to simulate everything in a static position and then to transform it to its animated position is a lot more robust. So if we take the example of the coffee spill, we run the sim in two steps. The first one is the content feed in static position. The second one, a secondary sim for the spillage. This is a rough test and the base setup for the effect. This is what I call a core setup or a skeleton setup. So this performs only the basic of the effects. All the remaining means like refining the simulation, correctly meshing the fluid, the delivery to lighting, shading, rendering is left to the students to problem solve. So if we were in a commercial studio, FX rig like this would be most likely created by a mid or senior artist and then given to juniors to adapt and run on the shots. From a trainer's point of view, it's also something that I want to assess. Can the student pick up an existing setup? Can they technically make it work with the inputs from the shots? And can they understand the workings of the setup to address creative notes? Let's look at the first step, the sim at origin. So on the right here, I've got a screen cap of part of the setup. So you see that node called animate jug, that is my incoming geometry. You can note that it's packed geometry, it's transformed packed geometry. I want to deal with only one point for now. So from this moving geometry, we compute the acceleration and we also add a up vector attribute. So in this clip, you can see the yellow vector pointing up is our up vector or the up direction, and the purple vector is our computed acceleration. The next step is to cancel the animation of the jug and transform accel and up to the new referential. We use these two nodes, extract transform and transform piece, to move back the jug into a static position. You can see in this new clip the up vector changing direction corresponding to the jug's previous animation, and the same thing is happening to our accel vector. So coming into this next step, we've created our flip source and the collision geometry that we feed into DOPS. This is a DOP network. Our two nodes here apply our external forces to the flip object. So these are screen captures of the parameter pairs of those two nodes. One reads the transformed up vector and apply it as the direction for gravity. And the other one applies the negative of the transform acceleration. So this is a very approximate implementation of mass times accelerations equals the sum of external forces. It's good enough for what we're doing. So I'm going to play this first clip. So you can see the particles sloshing, and you can also see that when they reach the top of the jug, they turn red and disappear. So this is what this branch of the DOP network does. Particles that enter the top region of the jug gets added to a special group that gets them set to be killed in the next substep. So this way we can remove particles from the sim to mimic the spillage. So the second clip shows that simulation now brought to the animated jug referential. So the next step is to use those red particles to create the spill animation. This is going to be a run-of-the-mill flip sim, nothing special about it. Here you go. So what you see here is the flip particle and the collision volume generated by the flip solver. You can see it's not super clean. We have particles being emitted at unexpected times. That causes the solver to generate the collision volume. The reason I'm showing you this is to underline that we're not giving a plug-and-play setups to our students. They are given a simple base on which they have to build the shot upon, including the troubleshooting and the problem solving that's needed to push an effect like this to completion. Doing so, we're putting them in similar situations that they will face in industry. And now we combine both simulations. So this is the particles only. It looks seamless. And this is the mesh result. So now it's up to the students to push it to final. I'm showing you the results from Hallam and Leon again. They've successfully implemented the setups for the shots. They solved the intersection issues with the fluid mesh on this container. They've also had to figure out how to get motion blur working. They've had to address countless creative notes in terms of how much sloshing, adjusting timing, adjusting amount, adjusting the shader, and so on. This is working pretty well. Even more if you consider that this was done by a junior artist. That's it for this talk. To recap, we've briefly gone through what is the MAV at the Animal Logic Academy. I've also presented the stylized smoke technique that we've developed for coffee break, in particular the simulation steps and our approach to cell shading. We also went through the workflow we taught our students for simulating content fluids, in particular fast-moving content fluids. And we also went through some of the teaching principles used at the Academy to prepare our students for industry. I hope you found the presentation interesting. If you want more information about the Academy, please visit our website, animallogicacademy.uts.edu.au. We're also present on most social media platforms. Enjoy the rest of these Reading Hive presentations. Thank you very much.